Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to do a video about lineups I'm going to use for the Summer Extreme event. Now, the reason for this is because, well, a bunch of people basically asked for it, and also at the same time, lineups have completely changed now because of all the BR changes coming in. So far, I've been able to do the naval task, and then also most of the pilot tasks. We'll finish these two off today and kind of go through there. One of the things that I will say about lineups is one of the things that's really important to focus on is other objectives. So whether it's dailies, specials, the page of history events, which you'll find in the achievements tab, such as the Tartu Offensive, or holiday events, if you focus on these and can do rank 3 or higher, make sure to do them, so therefore you can kind of push forward and have a bit of fun, and also, you know, focus on other things instead of just grinding out the general times for it. Now, if you want to see a naval video on this, make sure to put it in the comments, and then I'll make one later on if there's enough people are interested, but let's get into it. The first one is US, and it's of course 6-7. The reason for this is because they've moved up a ton of stuff above 6-7, making 6-7 a pretty powerful BR at the moment, and there is a ton of vehicles in America that are pretty fun to play at 6-7. The T-34, for example, T-26E1, T-26E5, and then of course the three lighter vehicles which are there, meaning that you can have several different playstyles with exactly the same lineup. The only thing that this is missing is an AA option, which doesn't really exist, but all of the heavy tanks have 50 cals on them, which is really nice, and also stuff like the T-92 can do a bit of AA, whereas the other two are much more take them in early game and then see what you can do. You also have some really good CAS, including the P-51H. This thing has two 1,000 pounders on it, meaning that you have a guaranteed kill. Then it has APIT on the 50 cals and a very powerful engine, meaning that you can do air-to-air pretty effectively. Then I have the F2G, because it gets independent bomb drops with its 1,000 pounders, so you can get two targets off. And then this also has a really cool skin on it, the racing camouflage. But if you don't have the F2G, which I think is actually pretty cheap right now, you can run one of the strike aircraft, which gives you more bomb load and more bang for your buck. You can also run a Bearcat as well with the 20mm. The 20mm do pen quite a lot when going from top down, so you can annihilate some vehicles and also bring three 1,000 pounders, so can be quite aggressive overall. So the 6-7 lineup is really nice for America. For Germany, it's a bit of a toss-up because there's a bunch of different ones that you can go for now, especially after the BR changes, like the high-tier ones. But I wanted to focus on one which is kind of mid-tier, and the reason for this is because of a Battle Pass challenge. So in the Battle Pass right now, there is Steel Avalanche, which is one of the challenges to do, and you need to get a tank destroyer, and SPAA destructions, so basically just kill people with each type of vehicle. So with the 5-7 lineup of the Tiger, Panther, and Panthers, you can do this pretty effectively, and then you can swap in the Oswin 2 for the AA portion, and then you can swap in the Panzer 470V for the tank destroyer portion. You can even go up to 6-7 if you want to with the Tiger 2H, bringing the Ferdinand, and then also the Jagdtiger to be able to do the tank destroyer too, so therefore you can focus on other stuff instead of just, you know, the vehicles themselves. The 5-7 lineup for Germany is really strong, you know, as long as you know how to angle a Tiger, and also as long as you know how to play Panthers, you can, you know, basically play very simply and very well in the vehicles themselves. And also, you do actually have some quite nice CAS. It's not usually thought about, but the Ju-188 actually has 6 250 kilo bombs, so if you have air superiority, it can work really well. You can also bring along some pretty big bombs as well, including a 1800 kilo bomb if you want to. I know a lot of people bring this load out here with the 250s, the 1000s, and then all the small bombs, so therefore you have independent stuff that you can hit people with. But for me, I just like the standard bombs just because it's easier to use. K4 is their superiority, and obviously the banger tanks, which can be replaced with the Ostwind or other vehicles. It works really well. The USSR got a lot of buffs when it came to their lineups when you have a look at the BR changes, and one of them is 8-7. Even though a lot of vehicles were brought up to 8-7, including the 435 and also the T62, there are a few vehicles which just weren't. So stuff like the Drozd stayed at its BR, so that one's still 8-7, so you can stick this in the lineup. and also the Object 279 if you have it. You can just stick it in this lineup too. You can also put in the IT-1 and the Sturm S. They're both available. And as aviation, you have, of course, the IL-28SH, which has a 3,000 kilo, or a bunch of S5K rockets if you want to use it, and the Ak-23, which is a really fun air superiority fighter. But if you don't like the Ak-23, and you actually want something which is a bit more useful in doing ground stuff, you can bring the MiG-15 BIS, which has two 250s on it, or rockets, and then do the air superiority. I just like the Ak-23 because it's a really fun air superiority fighter, and you don't really get to use it that much, but it does move around a lot. So yeah, this lineup for the Soviets right now is busted, I think is probably the way to put it. If any of the BRs are kind of around this one, they're just going to annihilate, especially if you have the BMP-2 and the Object 685, because both of those didn't get up BR'd, but for some reason the BMP-3 did. So, yeah, this BR right now, the 871 is nuts, the 831 is still okay, and also the 701 is still good with the IS-3 T-44-100, and also the ZSU-57 too. So the Soviets really are very powerful right now. For Britain, 7.7 looks pretty juicy. Basically, you just run the 7.7 lineup you used to have, but the other two vehicles were at 7.3, now they're at 7.7, so you just run them all together. The APDS can be annoying on these vehicles, but at the same time, I always trust in the Conqueror. The Conqueror has never let me down when it comes to the game. It feels really nice to use, and overall is quite a fun vehicle. The Carnarvon is a nice backup heavy tank, and also Centurion gives you a bit mobility and also artillery alongside of it. The CAS elements, the Attacker gives you 1,000-pound bomb drops once again. They did move up the Vampire, which kind of sucks, so you can't use that thing right now, but at least the Sea Venom's there for some fun kind of a superiority role. Even though it isn't very good, it can be quite useful. I'd personally swap in a Meteor if you want to be a bit more serious about things, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of fun when it comes to the ground. You do also have the 4.7 lineup for Britain, which is pretty good. You know, you can stack points with it, but, you know, at the same time, there are a few issues with it. For Japan, 9.0 is the way to go. 9.0 BR is pretty insane when it comes to Japan. Basically, all of the 8.7s that used to be 8.7s are now 9.0. So with everything else they got increased, they will be able to push themselves at that BR. They were really strong at 8.7. They'll be really strong at 9.0 too. You can also create an 8.7 lineup if you want to, or an 8.3 lineup, but there's not really much point. It's much better just to go for this 9.0 one with these like 3 vehicles. Type 16P is incredibly maneuverable. It has Gen 2 thermals, LWSLR, M735, and obviously scouting if you get into rough matchups. I've done really well in this machine because it's very powerful. The Type 74s are also incredibly good. They have the best round at their BR, or at least used to. The Type 93, which is incredibly strong, have good mobility, laser rangefinder, with a beefed up engine recently, and also hydropneumatic suspension, so you can actually tailor your experience to how you want to play. For CAS, you have the F86 F30. This one gets 2 1,000-pounders, which is quite nice. And then the Kicker, which gets an 800 kilo. Not the best, but there's not too many options, unfortunately. The other BR you can go for with the Japanese right now is 6367, since none of these vehicles got up-tiered, and they're all mobile heat slingers, which is really nice. So there's that could easily be something to go for, or 4.7, of course, which is kind of the standard one. For China, it's got to be 5.7. It's always 5.7, because 5.7 China is nuts. Even with 8.0, 8.3, and 8.7 being good, 5.7 is always the one to go for. Now, you have the Hellcat as a starter. If you don't have any of the premium vehicles, that's fine. You have the Hellcat, the T-34 85 S53, the T-34 85 GAL, then you've got the Fong Kong as an AA/AT. You also have the M36 that you can throw in there as well. And also, there's the IS-2 at 6.0 if you want to bring it in, but I personally wouldn't. I would keep it at 5.7. So 2 T-34 85s, an M18, a Fong Kong, and an M36 is an insane group of tanks to be able to pull from in a lineup, and then also you have the M64 if you have it, and the T-3485 number 215. The CAS is also good, P51K, which is just a P51 with a different prop hub. It also has two 1,000 pounders, so guaranteed kill. And then the IL-10 1946 with its 23mm guns, which can pen a lot, up to 32mm, and you can also bring two 250s or rockets if you go after open-top vehicles. So overall, this lineup is also one which just has a little bit of everything, which is kind of what you want. For Italy, there are two lineups which are super strong. The first one is a tank destroyer lineup. I know that sounds really weird, but basically if you have dailies or specials to do tank destroyer challenges in, this is the lineup you want to use. Basically the Stug 3G and also the 9053 M41M, these two right here. You can also bring along the Breda 501 in that one if you don't have the Zerini 1. But if you do have the Zerini 1, you stick it in this 4.0 lineup and you have a beautiful set of 4.0 for SPG kills, which can be super good for dailies and specials and even challenges. The M4A4 can also replace the Zerini. It is pretty much as good in its given role. For the aircraft, you have the C202EC, which provides good air support and also decent penetration with the MG151s, and also the SM92 with its two 500 kilo bombs, which at least now I think drop independently. They didn't used to, but they do now, so that should be pretty powerful. The other lineup which is really good is of course the 9.3 lineup or 9.0 lineup, depending on which one you want to look at. You know, the Centauro, Leopard 1A5, and then also stuff like the VBC or 40 Mark II and Centauro, very powerful, and also the VCC 8060, just really good vehicles around that BR, so definitely worth going for. Then France, so France, for some reason, whoever was doing the BR changes completely forgot France existed, so their 7.7 and 7.3 lineup have pretty much been untouched. For 7.7, the Sub-Assay is still at 7.7, it wasn't up-tiered, neither was the AMX-50 or the Lorraine or the AMX-1390. So this lineup right now is broken. It's absolutely busted at the moment. You even have the Foch, which didn't go up either. Just for some reason, none of these vehicles went up, even though they're incredibly strong. So Sub-Assay, AMX-50, Lorraine, and AMX-1390 is incredibly nice. I like to run the Char 25T for that little bit of extra speed compared to the AMX-1390. And also, you can run the 7.3 lineup if you have the premiums. You know, the Samua, the AMX-50 TO90, and then also the Char 25T is a ridiculously strong lineup right now, especially with everything else getting up-tiered. They just forgot to up-tier any of these vehicles. You know, they up-tiered all the ones above it, like the 30B2 and the Brennus, and also the AMX 32105. But what is going on? Like, it's just nuts. This whole area was untouched. So 7.7 France is insanely strong, especially since you have the Origin and the Barrajan as well to bring along with it. You have, you know, two 1,000 pound drops on both of them to provide CAS support and air superiority. It's kind of nuts what's available here. Then for Sweden, you have the 8.7 lineup. Sweden got hit hard on the BR changes, so there aren't a ton of lineups which haven't been affected, but the 8.7 one is still there. If you don't like the SCRV 103C, you can always replace it with, of course, the STRV 104. The VEEK is probably the second best gun AA in the game with its HUVT, so definitely worth running. And then obviously the IKV 91 105 with its stabilized 105, and scouting is incredibly strong. You also have the A28B with its rockets on it, which is really nice, but also you do have the Vampire, so if you have researched the Vampire in the finish line that you can see here, you can actually get the 2 1000s, which is super strong. Then the SK60, you can run something like the A29 if you want. I just really don't like it, and unfortunately, well, I suppose you can run the Saab with this lineup, and the Saab does get the secondary loadouts now, the custom loadouts, so you can actually run some pretty cool stuff. So I'd probably plug that in instead of the SK60, because the funny thing about this vehicle is it gets access to CCIP, so you can just drop bombs with insane accuracy from high altitude. It's just nuts. Then Israel. So Israel after the BR changes is a bit of an odd one, because there's a lot of vehicles at different BRs, or sorry, the same BR, but very different uses and also very different capabilities. So pretty much their whole rank 5 is 8.0 now. So you you just want to use the higher tier ones. So you use the Magak 5 and the Shotcal LF, or you can maybe use the Magak 6A if you like the M60 a little bit more. But yeah, so just run these two at 8.0. So, you know, you can get all of the other 8.0s involved, plus the Hobbit if you want to. The 8.7's still fine. The 9.3s, if you get the M413s, the Macavers will do very well. So those kind of are a way to go for. But the reason why I say 8.0 is so you can run, you know, the Orojan and the Meteor and F13 or the Meteor F8, because I really don't like playing earlier tier Israel because their cast is pretty much non-existent. You could also play 9.3 with their Ayit. The Ayit actually has the good old Mavericks, and it also has the guided bombs, but at 8.7 with the A4E early, you also have the guided bombs, so that's probably better to go for since you run into less AA. So stuff like the Shotcal Gimel, the Magak 6B, or the Hydra and the 6R could be easily as good as anything. So Israel has actually quite a lot of nice lineups for this event, but as I said before, the main thing you should focus on is picking vehicles and picking lineups which focus on stuff like dailies, focus on stuff like specials, focus on stuff like challenges, and also focus on stuff like the Page of History, which is around here, and also the holiday stuff so you don't burn yourself out. Focus on the minor challenges before opening up the major challenges. By the time you get this Page of History done, you'll probably have half of the Tanker Star done, and it'll just make stuff a lot easier. Then you can focus on your dailies and specials as you go along. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.